This is a setup that I'm going to show you now that's also for sale, which is the whole setup for cutting fret slots. So first included are 2 Japanese fret saws, and they're Stumac fret saws with spines on them. There's a Stumac miter box complete with a pin that is in there so that you can put your templates through. And these are the templates, and I have, this one is for both baritone, for a baritone ukulele with a 20 and scale, and this is for a tenor uk with a 17-inch scale. This one is for a concert uk with a 15-inch scale and a soprano uk with a 13 3/4 inch scale. And then this is another one that I made. Those are both Stumac, and this is one that I made which is for a 18-inch scale. And so all of these, what you do is you tape them, tape your fretboard onto these, and you put them in here, and then the little pin will sit in each one of those little slots, and this will allow the depth to be absolutely accurate, because when the spine of the saw gets down to that point, it stops the saw from sawing any deeper. It holds it perfectly square and at a right angle to the fretboard, so it makes a perfect cut every time at the right spacing. If you don't want to use a miter box to cut it, and you can also do that on your table saw. And for that I've included a Stumac saw blade for the table saw. When you do this on the table saw, you need to have a block like this, which is also included. And this gets clamped to your sled that you use on your table saw, and it has the pin in it here that fits the pin in these. So you just have this now, you're cutting underneath, your fretboard is underneath, and you just move it down so that each pin goes in the notch, and it gives you perfect spacing for cutting your fret slots. So there's this entire set. Also for sale is this jig for cutting the radius on a fretboard. So if you want a radius on a ukulele fretboard, the ideal radius, I believe, is 16 inches. Some people like them flat, and some people like a radius. So I just show you a little piece here of pine that I've cut. You cut the slots first, and then this piece then gets attached. There's a mark down the center so that you can center this right where you want it, and you attach it with either double-sided tape, or what I do often is put a piece of tape on the back of your fretboard and a tape here, and then a little bit of glue, and then just set it on top. And then when you're done, the tape will come off, and then you just peel the glue from the CA glue. So this gets attached like that. This piece is able to move back and forth like this. It has, these are cut at on the radius, and then this piece is also got this cut in it so that it rides in this, and it can go back and forth so that it goes over the fretboard like this. And just for the sake of demonstration, I show the router is being here on this, and you've set the router to the depth that you want, so that you can come down the fretboard this way, and then you move it over, and you go back and forth, and that cuts a nice radius on the board. In this set, the router is not included. But it does a very quick job of cutting a beautiful radius. Also included in this are 2 radius sanding blocks, and the reason that there's 2 is because you can have one that's 100 grit, and the other one 200, or whatever you would prefer to go to do your final sanding on your blocks. And so they're cut to the correct radius, and there are 2 of them. Also for sale, I have a whole group of things that are about fretting. So I'm going to show you that group of tools. This is a Stumac leveling bar, and it is absolutely straight and true on both edges. And that we put on this contact sandpaper. So there's a 220 grit and 120 grit sandpaper, and that is to go over the frets after you put them on to make sure that they're all on the same plane. So this leveling bar, Stumac leveling bar, which is 16 inches long. Also, in terms of fretting, I have quite a bit of Evo Gold fret wire for ukulele. And let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 13 times 2 feet. That's 26 feet of Evo Gold. And as you may know, Evo Gold fret wire is no longer available. And so this is kind of a rare thing. It's excellent fret wire. It's harder than the silver wire, but softer than the stainless steel. And then I have various sizes of the so-called silver fret wire. There's quite a bit of it here too, at least probably 30 feet of different sizes. The wide low, the low normal, and the low thin are all in this bundle. In terms of fretting, I already showed you the the jig that I made for putting a radius on the fretboard. And so for that you need this, which is a jig to bend the fret wire so to fit the radius. And so that's a real simple tool. This I put in the vise, and you just put your fret wire in there and you turn this knob here, and as you can see, what it does is it turns, puts the curve in the fret wire, keeping it absolutely so that the tang is still square to the top edge of it. So there's this fret bender. Also, I have a Stumac dead blow fretting hammer with brass on one end and plastic on the other for driving home the frets on the fretboard. In terms of leveling and also dressing the frets, there's a Stumac centered Z file, which is a diamond. It is a diamond grit file. This is also a diamond grit file, which is rounded, and it's narrow medium for narrow medium frets, which is perfect for the frets. I also have this diamond file here, which is for dressing the frets. There's this file, this flat file, which is used for the edges of the fretboard. So when the fret is installed on the fretboard, you go over the edges with this after you've nipped off the excess to make them so that they're nice and smooth on the edges. This file is very useful. It's flat on one side and it's rounded on the other side, but the filing edges are on these two. And what that's for is that you can take this and you can round off the edges of your frets, just so that they're not sharp on the edges. So this is a file for that. Also Stumac. There is a whole set of diamond nut cutting files. These are diamond nut cutting files, and I have them here in the 0.24, 0.28, and 0.32, which are appropriate for cutting the nut slots for the strings. Those are diamond ones. And I also have the Stumac set of the regular nut slot cutting files. There's a leveling. This is like a rocker, but it's got diamond grit on it so that you can go over your frets, and you can level them with this for spot leveling, and this can be even done while the strings are on an instrument. This is a really beefy, very useful tool. This is a file that's 1/8 of an inch thick, and it's got fine grit on one side and coarse on the other, and this file is used for dressing the bottom of the slot that you put in your bridge for the saddle. So that makes a nice flat bottom on that so that the saddle sits well into the bridge. There's also a diamond file here for dressing frets that's cut, and it is on one side it's 150 grit, and on the other side, this turns around in here, it's 300 grit. So there's that file as well, a diamond file. Also, when you're working on that, these are little shields that you can put on your frets so that your files don't run into your fretboard. Also is a Stumac scraper, which is an excellent scraper. It's straight on one side and it's got a curve on the other. Also is a set of Stumac fret erasers, which are varying grit from 400 to 2000 grit for smoothing out. Some people like using, that's the 2000 grit one there. It's called a fret eraser for the people who know what those are. This is also a tool that is used for cleaning out your fret slots. This little hook on the end, it fits into the fret slots perfectly for cleaning out the fret slots. I like to put bindings on my fretboards. This is just a piece of pine that I used as a model, and it has the 16-inch radius already cut into it, which I did on that. You can see here where it's just taken down the sides. But when you put on, if you put binding on your fretboard, when your fret goes across, you have to cut a little bit off at the tang on the end, and so you need a fret nipper for that. And I have 2 fret nippers. This is a really excellent heavy-duty fret nipper that's fully adjustable, that can be used for, you just put it in here like this, and you can put the stop where you want it, and that just clips off the tang so that when you install this, that part of the fret just goes over the top of the binding. So there are 2 fret nippers, one that's a heavy duty one and another one which is a little bit more light duty. They're both excellent, so I have 2 of those, and this comes with another bit that fits in here for cutting those as well. This is probably one of the most useful tools in a shop, is a fret nipper, and this you can use for trimming off little braces of wood. You can also use it when you have your fret installed. You can put this up against it and do it. It's also, the cutters are right on the edge, so you can also use it for lifting frets if you need to lift frets. Also is a pair of Stumac padded pliers. So this is this set of tools for fretting that go along with the miter fret box and all the templates for cutting fret slots. This is a holder for the frets, and it will hold all the frets in order so that you know where they go when you're doing your fretting. This is a string action gauge, and it's something that you can put on the fretboard and measure the height of the string to the top of the fret to give you an idea of setting up your action on your ukulele. And it also has all kinds of little ways of measuring on the sides, and then on the back it has a fraction, decimal, metric conversion table. It's a very useful thing. This is a little guide for determining how deep your fret slots are. And so each side has a different radius. So this is a 10 to 14 and a 15 to 20 on this side, and a 7 1/4 to 9 1/2 on this side, and flat on this side. So you put it in, and those little marks on there should be flush with the top of your fretboard with that in the slot, and it's thin enough that it just fits right down in the slot so that you can gauge how deep to cut your fret slots. This is a little handy 6-inch rule, stainless steel, and I love this tool because it on one side you have 0 right in the middle, and then it measures out to both sides, so it's really handy for centering. So if you put it on something, for example, and you have the same measurement on both sides, then in 0 you know you have your true center. Very useful tool.